All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Tales from the Pantheon session. My name is Gabriel Rucker. I am the CEO and co founder of Titan AI. And today we have another very esteemed and amazing guest, Jacob Schoenberg. But before we get into that, I want to give a quick prefix of, what Titan AI is, what Tales from the Pantheon is. Essentially, what this program is for is basically just no BS, no filler, real raw content from entrepreneurs, community builders, investors, and really just industry experts to give insights into their stories, their careers, lessons learned, and just really tangible things that people can take out of this. What we noticed before was there were a lot of other podcasts and sessions where there was just kind of a lot of fun fluff and not really tangible takeaways at the end of it, which we try to remedy with what we're building here. And as far as what Titan AI is, so we're building a community focused relationship optimization platform and creating that specifically for professionals, communities, and enterprises to be able to 10x their network size and engagement. We're working on recommendation algorithms that match you with the right people, businesses, communities, events, and resources. But not just that, also making sure that it's not who and what to connect with and that data, but also how and why and managing those relationships on the back end. And not just the personal relationships, but also, the community relationships as well. And so enough about us and what we do. I would love to bring on our amazing panelists today. We've had him on before. We're happy to have him on again. Instead of us just talking about grants, now we get to learn about him and his story. So let's go ahead and bring on Jacob.
Hey, thanks, Gabe. Pleasure to be on again.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on again, man. Honestly, after that session, that is still the most watched session that we've had so far for the grants panel. Like, I think we've had like literally over I think like 600 people across like the different YouTube channels and what is it called, LinkedIn, just revisiting that session. It's kind of crazy. No, really appreciate you coming on again and being able to tell us more about you and the pathways. You were actually one of the most requested people. I told you that after too. People are like, I want to know more about Grantx. I want to know more about Jacob. Like, I want to be able to work with this guy. He seems great. So happy to bring you on for the fireside chat style of the series outside of the panel. So if you want to give everybody just a little bit on you, your background, and then we'll jump into everything else.
Yeah, sure. So as you know, I'm from a small town in Maine. I'm from the woods, and I grew up just always kind of chasing ideas, exploring, my own curiosity, doing little side projects, and bringing things, solving problems. I think a behavior that is far too often seen is people doing things because it's how they're done, instead of taking a first principles approach and doing things because it's what makes more sense. That's something that I've never been able to help but do, and that's kind of what led me through my career. I worked in finance for a bit, and actually at 23 I led the restructuring of a $17 billion organization, which was crazy. Wanted to make more impact and jumped into the climate space, where I was helping the power sector here in Texas basically address the system of problems related to the impact of extreme weather events on critical infrastructure. As you're familiar with, when it snows in Texas, everybody goes crazy. But yeah, while I was doing that, a lot of my projects were supported by grant funding, and I had a couple of key projects that would have really helped hundreds of thousands of Texans kind of die on the table as a result of a really outdated and really fragmented grant funding marketplace. About $1 trillion of grants flow through that marketplace every year. And, that whole system is from 1977. It's really outdated, and it was meant to be the major facilitator of most impact and innovation in the US, and instead has become one of the biggest barriers. And so that's kind of where Grantx was born, is to tear down that wall and make it so that the people that are working hard every day to change the world can focus on that, and we'll help them with the funding.
No, that's fantastic. And I know even for us as we're going through our own grant processes right now, I've actually, been looking through some of the different options that you guys have and can't wait to work with you guys more. We're going after the NSF grant right now, and it's a lot of work and a lot of time. And even with sourcing the stuff, it's been a fun process. So no, really great that you guys are diving into helping a lot of people in that space. But instead of just talking about grants this whole time, I want to talk about you.
Yeah.
So what first drew you into the world of startups and innovation, and kind of was this a deliberate process? Did you just kind of stumble into it? Like, was there a moment that really sparked? I know you kind of gave some of that stuff in your background, but just giving a little bit more detail on how you even got to, creating a startup yourself.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I'm from kind of a pretty small town. And I was always kind of this crazy kid. And I remember, um, actually, I think I was probably 19 or 20 when I heard the Tim Ferriss podcast for the first time. And I remember listening to that podcast, and it's, San Francisco Valley based. And it's all about bringing in like the world's top performers, a lot of startup people, very much kind of part of that ecosystem. And that was when I really kind of first had this moment of, oh my gosh, I'm hearing people think like me. And that was something that was kind of new. And it was like, oh my gosh, this isn't just me being a crazy person. And I'd always been very entrepreneurial. I started numerous little businesses growing up. But that was kind of the first big moment where I realized like, okay, there's a place for my brain. And I kind of chased that. During COVID, I actually sold everything I owned, bought a motorcycle, and backpacked across the country to SF. Um, and then, ended up going back to Boston to do the finance dance. And, it kind of took me around. But that was kind of that first moment where I realized, like, okay, the startup world has something to it. And it was less about, I think a lot of people get drawn to startups by what they see in news stories of like, these young guys raised $10 million, or seeing like Mark Zuckerberg when you're a kid and thinking like, well, I want to be rich and famous. But really what kind of drew me was the hearing kind of everybody's processors working similarly to mine and realizing, all right, there's work for me to do, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Um, what's the toughest moment that's kind of happened so far within your journey?
Oh my god.
I told you this is a no BS, no fluff.
Yeah.
We're going right
No,
into
no. It's just, I mean, how long do we have?
it. Right.
I mean, that's kind of the whole thing, right? Like um, I have a tattoo on my chest here that is Ostinato Rigore, and that was Leonardo da Vinci's personal motto, and it's rigorous persistence, or obstinate rigor. It's rigorous persistence of your craft. It is not just continuing and being resilient and going forward, but doing so with intention and like I said, with rigor, with a bit of intensity. And I think that's the key thing, because honestly, the hardest thing is every week you are going to get hit in the face over and over again. Um, and I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about startups. You're forced to grow. If you want to go do a big thing and you feel small, well, you got to become big. And the only way to get there quickly is to get your butt kicked. I think probably the hardest thing, based on the fact that I was still pretty green early on, was when I had actually first kind of had the idea. I brought in a couple of people I knew that I thought would be good co-founders, and started chasing the idea. And that was about an 8-month journey of constant struggle, constant battling. And maybe I've told you the full story, but basically I ended up having to kind of fire two of my friends. And one of them had actually attempted to defraud me and the company. And
I did not hear this part of the story. No. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the thing about business is, business comes with the potential for betrayal, and beauty in business comes from trust, right? And so you have to find a way to balance those things. And that was a lesson that I learned very early on, and it almost killed the company. And I had to learn how to I had to learn the legal game and learn how to maneuver effectively very early on, and lost, my two co-founders and my two, closest friends at that time, because, it was just this moment of realizing, okay, these are not the people to build a company with. And, they had already kind of given up, and they weren't putting the effort in. And this is a story that hits all the time with founders. You start a company with your friends because they're your friends, and then you realize, or oftentimes you realize too late, that these aren't the people to build with. For me, it was a little bit of a more obvious signal. I don't want to get too into it, but there was some really frightening behavior on one of the co-founder sides, and I was really forced to remove them. And I basically found myself in this position where I had, quit my job and set my career aside and said, I'm going to pursue this thing. I'm going to solve this problem. And it was less about I want to be a big famous startup and big fancy Silicon Valley guy, and it was more about this is a problem that is impacting the people who are doing the most important work in the US, and I want to solve this. And we say with our team all the time, we can't solve all the world's problems, but we can solve the biggest one for the people who are, right? And
Yeah.
so that conviction kind of got me through it, and I had to rebuild from scratch by myself. And I remember I just started a relationship at the time. Again, I just quit my job, and I was bartending on the weekends for 30 to 40 hours and finding ways to squeeze in 80 to 100 hours during the weekdays by just not sleeping for 2 nights and having them as extra week or as extra days. I mean, it nearly killed me, and that was brutal. I've faced challenges that maybe weren't as bad, but certainly a lot of big challenges, and you constantly deal with existential crisis and self-doubt and having to learn new things. It's like starting a new job every week, right?
Yeah.
But that was at a time where I hadn't kind of built up the resistance against challenges like that, and it was very close to killing the dream. Um, and so I'd say that was the hardest point, but it really taught me how to, it's kind of one of those moments where it's like, I didn't give up then. Why would I give up now?
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it's it's a long and arduous road that I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, not even just on the startup side, but in business owners in general, kind of a lot of suffering in silence or not really knowing, who to really kind of address those problems with. I mean, I've had uh, maybe not as extreme in certain areas, but also more extreme in others. I think, like depending on how you look at the scenarios. Because I mean, I'm on company number 3 right now, and I think I've seen more BS under the sun running those businesses than I think anything in my personal life kind of combined, which is crazy. There are still stories that I haven't told people. Maybe when we're out this Saturday, I'll let you know about it, and we'll talk about some of those other stories. I think those are a little too detailed for any type of media right now, but even then, what you said before about resonating with the problem, right? And I feel like a lot of people hear that, especially from investors or other people, and they're like, they kind of start to feel a sense of, this is BS. But I think a lot of people that have gone through the trials and have found success in some way, shape, or form on the other side, those individuals really resonate with that problem, that they, whatever their problem is when they're starting the company. And so, how did you even, I guess, dive deep enough into this to realize like this is a problem worth staying in this long and
Yeah.
worth trying to solve it?
Yeah. I mean, it was really like this project I was working on was something that it was exciting because of the level of impact I was going to be able to make. Right. And I'd done a couple of things like this before, and it was something I'd become addicted to, where it was like, oh my gosh, like I've had my butt kicked, all through my early 20s, working 80 hours a week for what? To get better, to hone those skills and to become, capable of doing things. And then I asked the question, what is it that I want to do? And people say change the world, and it's become this cliche, but for me, it was like I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to help kind of leave a positive footprint. I wanted to do things that helped people at a large scale. And those projects I was leading at the time were doing just that. And it was very um, related compared to startups. It was a pretty quick cycle of validation. You do a project for 3 or 4 months, and you get to kind of see what's going to go out and happen, and the impact you've made. This was one of those projects, and I was quite excited about it. And the fact that it got canceled, even though it had a great team working on it, like we were the ones to do the job, right? We had buy-in from executive leadership. We knew there was funding out there for us. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, all the boxes have been checked off. We're going to go do this thing. We've prepped right. It's ready. Let's do it. And then this, little thing, this tedious process of just filling out forms, checking off boxes, like you've said, the stuff you've had to deal with NSF, that's what killed it. And to me, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why? And, we were a $10 billion organization. It's like, why are we still running into silly little problems like this and getting sidetracked by them? And it's stopping us from doing really impactful work. And so that's what really frustrated me. And, when I went out to learn more and to see if this was something that was impacting more than just us, if this was a story that wasn't just mine, I talked with a professor at UT, Dr. Michael Sachs. He's recognized as a world authority in cardiovascular research. And I was lucky to get 15 minutes with him. Turned into 45 minutes of him just ranting. And it was clear that this was frustration that had been built up over, 40 plus year career. And one of the things he said that stuck with me is he's like, and excuse my French, but it's a direct quote. He said, I spend 60% of my fucking time dealing with this goddamn grant world. And he was, and I asked another question. He's like, yeah, I only have 10% of my time remaining to focus on my research, fixing the human heart. And that was kind of my moment where it really, really clicked that I had to do this, because this question of, what would the world look like if this guy who's leading the effort to address, heart problems, what would the world look like if we 6x'd the amount of time he spent on that? And then what would the world look like if we did that for every researcher, for every nonprofit, for every utility that was trying to address climate change, for every startup that was trying to get off the ground? And for me, that was where it really stuck.
Let's dive more into your, like leading your team and building out your team. I know we've talked about how you actually chose your team members and how you assembled your crew, let's say. We're both, I'm a very big fan in multiple ways for how you've kind of assembled your team. But if you want to give our viewers the context on what I'm alluding to here, I would love to have everybody kind of know about that, and then we can dive more into it too. This might also shift into a completely different conversation, but
yeah, no, I'm down, man. I'll follow you. It's I mean, you got to get people who get it, right? I've hired people that were, higher ups at Google, that were, leadership at very famous tech companies. And, honestly, probably one of our best hires was someone that was just kind of finishing up a grad degree at Northeastern and hadn't really done that much in the market, right?
Yeah.
And, our head of engineering now, he was coming from McKinsey, but that's not why we hired him. We hired him because not only did he get it, not only did he really align with the problem, and he was in this place where he was saying, I could work anywhere. I mean, he turned down an offer from TikTok for, I believe, like $250K a year.
Wow.
And he was in his early 20s. That's a really great.
Yeah, it's a great offer.
Yeah. And he turned that down to work with us for pennies.
Yeah.
And did so for like 8 months.
Pennies and sadness when you think about it. Yeah.
And he did it because, that same moment that I had where it was like, okay, not only is this a big problem to solve, but also it's the right time to solve it. This is a massive market that has been pretty untouched because the technology previously hadn't really been available to actually solve this. What you'd see in the competitive set is a bunch of, kind of outdated SaaS tools, right? They don't do what people need. You see like 30% churn across the market, right? That tells you that like these tools aren't really getting the job done. And it's because previously the tech wasn't available to do so, but now it is. And we've all kind of understood that like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect timing. We have the perfect team, the perfect people to do this. And it's something that we all care about. And we really come together around that. And so, I guess if you kind of boiled it down to a framework, I would say the big thing is people that get it. And obviously, it takes some looking around. Personally, I'm not a big fan of relying on personal networks, as you might understand. But, cast a wide net and see who really resonates with what you're doing. Go through 1,000 resumes, have hundreds of interviews. And when you interview people, don't ask them about the resume. Meet them, get to know them, have a conversation with them. Every interview I have, I start by saying, I hate interview speak. I'm a human being. You're a human being. If we communicate as human beings, that's the most effective mode of communication. And you get to know someone, right? You get to know how they think. You get to know what their skill set actually is, what they're capable of. And moreover, you get to know what really lights them up, and what makes their eyes go wide when they're talking about it, right? But the framework for me, I think, that really helped me early on was realizing that, I wanted people who, were the best talent, right? Who were the most capable in the roles that made the most sense and that were the most complementary. Obviously, early stage startup, I wanted people who were okay with not getting paid a lot, right? And I wanted people who got it, who cared. And where I found that intersection was these people who had been very successful in their careers, who could work anywhere, who'd made good money and could make money anywhere they wanted. What they really cared about was making an impact, was doing something with the skill set that they developed, much like I did, right? And that's really how we kind of brought people in. And man, it's incredible. Our team now is, I've never worked in such a collaborative environment. It's crazy how well we get along, and sometimes concerning. It's like, are we having too much fun? Um, but it also blows my mind how much we get done. I think, I think that's the big thing. And what you kind of should strive towards is this ability to not only drive towards a goal and a mission together, but drive each other and to face challenges and solve problems together in a way that is, quick story. Sorry, I'm rambling, but
No, so that's what podcasts are for.
yeah,
Like I always say, if we only talk about one topic and it's a good topic, like we'll stay on it.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, I mean, we had an offsite in Maine where we did a small event, and we brought everybody up to Maine, and we were all staying in this big Airbnb, and I told everybody I'd make breakfast for them in the morning. So I woke up a little before everybody else. There was 8 or 9 of us there, and so I started making a pretty big breakfast. And me, I can't just do one thing. I've got to have accoutrements. You got to have the coffee with it, the orange juice with it. You gotta have a good breakfast.
Yeah.
And what was really amazing for me to see was as each person kind of woke up and came into the kitchen, there was no hesitancy, and there was honestly like very little actual communication. People would just step in, see where I needed help, what they could be doing, and just started cooking with me, right? And by the time breakfast was almost done, we had the full team in there moving more effectively than what I've seen working in some of the highest class commercial kitchens during college. I mean, I worked at a restaurant that recruited primarily for Michelin stars. And the way that they moved in that kitchen and got dishes out was less effective than what my team did without any spoken communication. People just jumped in, saw what needed to be done, and worked together and had fun doing it. And to me, that's a perfect representation of how we work as a team.
Yeah. And first of all, perfect response to everything. But also, I was alluding to the anime side of how you
Oh,
about that
yes.
stuff too.
Well, yeah,
That is my favorite part of how you have, like, how you broke it down to me, because we talked about this probably like it was like almost a year ago now. Honestly, we were for context for everybody else. Jacob and I, our platform was initially looking at a system that we're going to be launching next year that I won't go into too much detail for, and Jacob's team might be taking over the grant aspect of that. But we were looking into how to basically replicate exactly what they were doing, right? Before I knew his company existed, and we were chatting over coffee and burritos, and during a very Austin combo. And during that time, he had told me basically about his amazing engineering team and all the progress they were making, and specifically how he formulated his team. So I wanted to give everybody context on that, because that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's right. And I was kind of touching on the key points of that too. And like I talked about everybody being in the roles that they needed to be, everybody driving towards an aligned mission. Yeah, when I first had the idea, I was watching a lot of the anime One Piece. And I used that as guidance for building the team, because what I saw is this team that, much like my team does now, has fun and can almost communicate wordlessly, and everybody has their role, but can also move fluidly around, and everyone kind of gets things done together, right? And there's this kind of that's what I saw in One Piece. Here's a guy who wants to be the king of the pirates, and he's floating around in a barrel, doesn't even have a ship, right? And he breaks down. He says, "What do I need? I need a ship. I need a swordsman. I need a navigator. I need a cook, a doctor, et cetera, et cetera." And then he goes out and he finds the best people at that, and he meets them.
Yep.
And in that show, the first person he goes to is the swordsman Zoro. This is incredibly nerdy what I'm doing right now.
I mean, I'm nerdy as hell too. That's why I love it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like you're talking to the guy that named his company Founding Titans. So
Fair. Damn, I never put that together. But yeah, so that's awesome. So I'm gonna start calling you Aaron Yeager.
Please don't.
So have you finished that show?
I have finished it now. We got the C Corp way before that came out. Also, it was not intentional. It was just my nerd brain in the background activating for that. Because I initially, that was not the plan at all. And then we got the C Corp, did all this stuff. Domain is out, and we had just a massive influx of people from Reddit that were like, we literally had like 2,000 people a month that were like organic web traffic when we first started the company, and most of them were just anime nerds, which I love. They're my people, but like it was not the ICP that we were initially going for.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah. So basically, you had Luffy, who's the guy who wants to be the king of the pirates, and he's realized like what roles does he need? How does he get there, right? And he went and meets with the guy who's like this great swordsman, and the guy's like, "Why would I be on your crew? You don't even have a ship." And I think that is where a lot of founders start kind of find themselves in this recruiting process. And the key is it's not just aligned around your mission, but it's also you can get each person on your team to where they want to be by kind of hopping on your ship and chasing that mission with you. For the swordsman, he wanted to be the greatest swordsman, right? He wanted to pursue this aligned mission, and he trusted Luffy to get him there, and believed in him, right? And I think that is the key part, is understanding that it's not just, hey, come do the thing I want to do. It's, hey, come along on this journey with me to go do this incredible thing. And on the way, you're going to achieve your own personal goals. And then establishing that you can be someone that they would follow. People need to trust you and believe in you, right? Like I've said before, I don't know if it was with you or on a different webinar or podcast, but somebody asked me about how I deal with leadership. And for me, it's the people on my team are incredible, much like Luffy's. Everybody's the best at what they do, right? And what that is them putting trust in you every day. Every hour that they go past when they should have gone to bed working on something is them putting trust in you. And so it's your job to wake up every morning and earn that trust and make sure that you take care of those people and you get them where they're trying to go.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, so the reason why I bring that up too is because so after we had that conversation, because I had been struggling with like maintaining or growing our team, and this is the first time for the first company ever where I had those issues because we weren't generating revenue like quickly and easily. We actually had a physical product that needed to be built and put into the hands of people, whereas before our stuff was more service based. And my events company, like we could have people very quickly and easily just sell tickets to an event, bring the right people, bring the right audience. It was marketing, right, at the end of the day for everything. Whereas building something with technology and building something that's tangible, and I think a lot of business owners run into those different aspects depending on the sector. And so that was after you had told me that, because you saw my background is also One Piece as well for my phone, so I don't know if people could see that or not, but literally so we nerded out with that. But after finding out those concepts, I applied it to our own team, right? So we went from a team of like literally 1.5, where it was me and my part-time CTO at the time, and then now we've got a team of 6. At one point, we had a batch of like basically like 11 interns within 3 months who were just, kind of testing people out, and a lot more trial by fire because there are a lot more issues with creating an early stage company, especially when you don't necessarily have a crazy amount of capital that you can just toss at different things. And at one point, we had that, but we completely pivoted the business, and so it's having those types of conversations over coffee where it kind of inspires other people, and then you learn to inspire others, which hopefully this podcast does for some people too, because you've been dropping some gems so far, which I've been able to extrapolate, but I've been in this game for a while. So hopefully people know kind of the underlying things of what you're talking about and can really apply that to, building out their own teams or, finding those right key hires, because everything you've said is just nail on the head, 100% correct, no matter how you view it. And I think just using one piece as an analogy for, how that process should be done and executed perfectly, because I personally in Austin have heard other people talking about you and how you built your team, right? And I haven't told you this before, but literally I've had other founders, other investors talk to me about you, which is like, crazy, because like they listen, oh, you guys are building before founding Tides and outside NAS, like you guys should talk to Grantx, you should talk to Jacob about this stuff. And I'm like, actually, literally, like I'm friends with the guy. We've had multiple discussions about this, and we're making plans for the future on that aspect. But no, literally, it's not just how you build your team; it's how other people also perceive a lot of those aspects, especially with investors too. For people that don't know the context, when people say we're investing in the team, right? Like if you build your team like crap, or if you don't have the right hires, you can't really add that additional weight or aspect to what you're building or working on, and really getting that capital provided into the business. And so that's why also you guys building a grant system, it's a little bit easier, right? Because you like you have your own grants that you're getting. I mean, easy is relative, I guess, because all this stuff is still hard. Nobody's magically thriving. If that was the case, everybody would do it. But no, that's
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming up on like 2.5 years of this, and we're just now really raising our pre-seed.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and it's like, it was it's a lot easier now than it used to be. but yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to have times where you're honest with your team and say like, look, it's gonna be rough. There's a storm coming, but like, let's do this. And you're gonna have those moments with yourself too, where you recognize that it's going to be hard. You're going to be miserable for a little while because it comes in waves, and you usually don't know how long that wave's gonna last. And so you kind of have to take one step at a time, keep moving forward, and making sure that what you're doing is the best thing you can be doing. I made mistakes early on where I don't know if I call them mistakes. I just have learned better now, but they definitely served us. Where it was, everybody thinks about hype, right?
Mm-hmm.
About talking the talk. The startup ecosystem is full of hype, right?
Yeah.
And that can help you get users for an early beta, especially when you don't realize it's an early beta. And learn from them, and learn from that, and pivot and improve the product, and launch again, and launch again, and then launch again, and make sure every time you do it, you are learning what you need to learn. I think there's a book that was recommended by my co-founder and COO, Lyndall Coombs, who's fantastic. The Mum Test, or Mom Test. Sorry, he's British, and but it's really interesting because it talks about how even if you're talking to every customer, even if you're talking to all these people in the market doing all sorts of research, you can still find yourself blind if you're asking the wrong questions. And so highly recommend that book, The Mom Test, but it teaches you how to learn what you need to know, which can make these launches and make these iterations significantly more effective. And it's great to say we've launched 1,000 betas, but if you haven't learned anything from them, and this is just to kind of establish that this works. When we launched our platform in January, first commercialized platform, and we were getting good usage, but I was kind of noticing behavior, and I was tapping into behavior, not just feedback of what people thought, but asking questions about like, what do they do when no one's looking? Remove my own ego from the conversation so they're not just telling me what I want to hear, and learning about what really matters to them. And then I went and used the platform myself, given I had some background in dealing with grants. And I was like, tear this whole shit down. This isn't who we are. This is us competing with the current set of competitors. This isn't us redefining the marketplace as a whole.
Yep.
And so we tore it down, and spent, I think, 6 months rebuilding. And that's a dangerous and scary thing to do. And frankly, the fact that my team didn't blink and followed me through that, it just kind of speaks to who we are as a company. But when we relaunched in July, in the first 60 days, we brought on 34 enterprise clients for 3.1 million contracted ARR, as well as 33 additional subscribers at around 6.8K MRR.
Okay.
And I had meetings with 4 Congress people and in 2 conversations about statewide deals, which would put us in about 1,000 different organizations. And that's in the first few months post-launch. That is not what all of the launches went like. But every launch that we had, every stressful day, every time I was like, this doesn't make sense, I'm going to do what makes sense. And diving into our usage rates and diving into how people were experiencing the product and what they were getting from it, what they were willing to pay for it. That all informed what has now become something that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to have another side conversation because I want to learn more about how you guys specifically did that. 'Cause, I mean, we're looking at a lot of local, state, and just like a lot of different city governments and municipalities and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, no, you're 100% correct, and we did the exact same process actually. So a lot of people don't know this either, but we completely scrapped our entire code base in February of this year, right? Because we were in that same boat. And then we started switching up to what our now current ICP is for the professionals and the community builders and enterprise clients, right? Because before our main market was just startups and investors, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's a terrible market," like blah blah blah. And I still believe it's not necessarily a terrible market, but what we were building solution wise, it would have worked, but it wouldn't have gotten us to be a $1 billion plus company either. Right? Like, would we have made very, very good money? 100%. Would we have been, would everything have been really good? Yeah, but not the level or scale that I personally saw in the vision for, what we're doing. Right. And sometimes you have to make those really tough decisions and, completely, scrap everything and start from sometimes from scratch, sometimes not. But really, it's, making sure that you have that differentiation as well. Because if you can easily build it, and that doesn't mean that nobody else can either, right? Like, somebody else can just take your idea, or if you're just the same as everybody else, then you're just eating from the same pie that everybody else is.
Yeah, I mean,
So I completely agree.
It's a really tricky game of like, yeah, absolutely. Are you going to be market defining? Why can't someone else do what you're doing is a question that most people don't put enough time and energy into answering. And honestly, it took us 6 months to really have an answer that was true and well backed, right? But I think the other thing there is like, it's also okay to not be a venture backable company. It is okay to say, hey, this is a business. This is a business that can make $50 million, or this is a business that could be worth, $10 million, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty great. That's a good business. And if you can do that and enjoy it and have a team that enjoys it and do so in a way where you're gathering revenue very quickly, otherwise you will starve to death, or like get some angel funding, like that's great. And I think not enough people do that. Like, we need more of these businesses that are, kind of hitting that in between market. That's just not quite tappable for venture. And like, that's fantastic. And you can have probably a much more enjoyable time doing that. But if you are, one of those wonderful people where your brain's just a little bit broken and you just kind of can't sleep at night if you're not trying to go out and do this thing and chase this vision, then recognize that, make the sacrifices you need to make, and go get it done.
Yeah, I mean, execution is key on a lot of that stuff too. And I mean, I think there are multiple points where we all have where we're like, man, why am I still doing this? Like, but it's those points like we were talking about a little bit earlier too that kind of push everything through. But I want to shift into a different kind of mode for this. So, what's the best piece of advice that you've received in your career, and how exactly have you followed it? Oh, it's kind of a hard one.
Honestly, and this may come across as arrogant, but I think most of the advice I've gained is through learned lessons. I've always
Mhm.
kind of taken the hard way. And though I've had people give me some pretty solid advice, a lot of people that I meet have like really amazing mentors, right? And that's something that I haven't really had. I've had I've had bosses that were wonderful and taught me a lot. But I think, where that learning really came in was um, when I was going out and doing things and running into walls and pushing through. And that's something that can't be taught. You can't be taught how to have a panic attack every morning at 10 a.m. and continue to move forward while also improving the situation and making the right decisions, right? You can't be taught how to like have that existential crisis about am I doing the right thing? I mean, my for the first year of Grantx, everyone that I was closest with anytime they saw me, asked me like, "How's it going?" and weren't excited by what I was saying and would try and convince me out of it. I would talk on the phone with my dad every day, and he would beg me to give up. He would beg me to be like, "You've done it. You've proved it. Like, go off and do something. Like, you've got a good career. What are you doing?" And the ability to kind of hear that from everyone around you, to not feel like you have a guiding light in, a mentor or an example that's kind of telling you what to do. It's human nature to kind of look for the answer from the people around you, right? Or say like, okay, I'm going to read, some playbook on startups and then just do what they say, right? But building the muscle of being in that extremely uncomfortable situation where you are the only one that really believes in what you're doing and constantly battling with, should I? And then pushing forward and getting to a point where, because honestly, I've spent the last 2 years having people say, what the hell are you doing? And now in the last 2 months, everyone's asking me, how the hell did you do that?
Yeah. No, I'm literally seeing the exact same shift as well, and this is why it's always good to have founder friends and like other people, because like especially people that are like in the same stage or people that have like just gotten past that stage and can like give. That's why I was asking about the advice thing. 'Cause I mean, like I feel the same way in a lot of the veins too, where I'm like, okay, I get advice, but it's not. I don't necessarily apply the advice the same way that it's given either, right? Like I find my own I guess diamond in the rough in that respect of like, okay, I can find this information and I can apply it in the right ways. Because I mean, my parents have had the exact same conversations with me, where they're like, why are you doing this? You're so smart. Like this makes no sense. Like you've done so many other great things in your career. Why are we doing this now? Why are you putting yourself through struggling and all the other things when your talents can be applied better elsewhere and you can be making a lot more money. And
And
you know,
also, I'll
say,
add too, like, I am incredibly grateful for those questions. Like, it was funny, like the times where I remember one time specifically, I was driving down 35 into a meeting. Things were going very badly. We were like probably 2 weeks away from not existing. And I called my dad and I was like, man, this is not going well. And he jumped right into convincing me, like, and asking me, like, why are you doing this? And that gave me the opportunity to not be battling with myself
mhm,
and instead have somebody else ask me. And I was able to answer that question and say, I love you. I'll talk to you later. Thank you. And go out there, charge on. And, answering that, having the people that care about you most asking why you're doing this is something that really you should listen to because they care about you. And remembering that you have people out there that care about you is really important anytime you're doing something hard. But also, having somebody else make the counter argument can usually get you out of that tailspin and out of that spiral inside your own head when you're trying to solve all the world's problems by yourself.
Yeah. And I'm gonna hit you with a what hopefully doesn't cause an existential crisis for either of us, but it's a really good question to ask, and then we'll jump into the lightning round with a couple of the rapid fire questions with everything. But I want you to picture your legacy right now. Like, what do you want people to hope? Like, what do you hope people think that you've stood for or will stand for?
Oh man, I'm so sorry. I don't really care. I've
There.
found that, like, I mean, I was, like I said, like um, growing up, my mom would often call me unique or special,
Mhm.
right? I was not surrounded by people that thought like me. And I think that's something that really helped me in the early stage of Grantx, is because I was okay with just not having the social validation, and just kind of fully separated from that. Now, validation from your market, validation from the people you're serving, making sure that you're actually helping them, that's important. But caring what people think about what you're doing just gets in the way, unless they are people that are going to kind of join in. Like, obviously, you need to care what investors think if you're raising money, because, like, if you spend your life saying investors are dumb, well, then you're going to be very poor and you're going to be the only one who thinks you're right, and you won't have done anything, right? So for me, I really don't think about legacy that much. But what I do think about is, I am existence consciousness. It's a blip, and it's the most miraculous gift that you could ask for, right? And my own belief is that that consciousness, that blip is a gift that I have, and to do with it what matters the most to me. I have the one shot. What am I going to do with it? And going out and spending time having family dinners and dinners with friends and listening to good music, having good wine, good food, good laughs, right? Going out and helping people, exploring the world, seeing the different cultures, climbing, hiking, sailing, and solving a problem and doing something that says, okay, I was here and I contributed something good. So to me, that's kind of my North Star. Not to give you a very kind of obnoxious answer.
It's not obnoxious at all because at the same point, it's like that's what this podcast was made for. Was no BS, right? Like just straight to the point answers. And um,
Oh, actually, to add on to that, I've always wanted people to think I was a good dancer. That that's like a sneaky little secret. I'm not a good dancer, but I try very hard and I put the effort out. And I don't think people think that, but one day maybe they will.
so quick side tangent. So people now think that I'm a good dancer, and I don't know why. Because people told me like for years that I'm not a great dancer. Like literally, like from middle school all the way until like freshman year of college, people were like, "Oh, you're a terrible dancer." I didn't start dancing differently. It's just people magically like
Did
after
you
2013 are like, "You're really good at dance." Like, oh my god, like you're so good. I'm like,
did
how?
you
What?
acquire new moves?
No,
No
maybe
new
it was
moves.
because that's when I started drinking. I don't know. Like,
Well,
it's
okay, all right. Let's not, yeah, but
like,
hey, man, maybe it's just, there's you were too early on the adoption curve, but you stuck with it and the timing hit.
on my moves, yeah,
Your moves
they
were ahead of
they
their
were
time.
eventually adopted.
They may not be new moves to you, but to the market, they're new.
that's a good sentiment. Yeah, maybe. But no, it's just a funny side thing. But
Yeah.
no, that's good. That's so good. All right. But now we're gonna pop into my favorite portion of all of this, where we're gonna ask you a couple rapid fire questions in the last like 5 minutes here. So probably I'd say no more than a minute per question that we've got, and then we'll wrap everything up. But first off, so what's one book that you feel like every entrepreneur professional should read? I know you said one earlier, but
Yeah. Okay. The Mum Test, Who Gets What and Why, Alvin Roth. Uh, Sapiens. Yeah, sorry, I'm just not going to do one book.
Yeah, all good.
Honestly, pick a fictional book, a fantasy book, something fun. I spent 5 years reading nonfiction books and couldn't make that list forever. But as an entrepreneur, one of your best assets is creativity. Strategically, like if you're not creative, you're only going to end up doing the same moves as the other people who are the best if you can get there. Creativity is a tool that can't be replaced, and the best way to keep it is to have some fun and play and read a fantasy book. Get away from it for a second, and yeah, that's what I would recommend.
What is your favorite success and what's your favorite failure that you've had?
Um, Favorite success, hands down, the team that we've built. Easy. Unbelievable. I mean, I literally feel like I'm in one of these like, extremely hopeful animes where everybody just gets along and they can take on the world together in,
Yeah.
whatever movie or show. Because that's what our team's like, and I've never seen it in real life. And so I feel it's so fun. Um, Favorite failure, which previously used to be my answer to the biggest achievement,
Mm.
because I think oftentimes failures are more of an achievement than a success.
Yep.
I again was about as non-target as you could get, but I continued to kind of pursue my own curiosities. I got super into data analytics in college and ended up using it to actually pay my way through college. And then kind of moved that into the world of finance a little bit, but again, without any real like institutional backing. I was just doing it out of interest, and helping like, small shops and everything, and just kind of doing some cool stuff. And I got connected with someone at Tesla who was recruiting for a financial analyst position in about, I think it was 2019, um, and just before 2020. And I did not have a formal education in the role, but I got through the interview process by basically just gaming it, breaking it down to its parts, and figuring out how to work with what I had, and passed the case interviews by studying for them the weekend ahead of time. Right. I got flown out to Tesla. And at the time, like I had been following Tesla since their inception. I was a huge fan of what they were doing. The way that their strategic roadmap was something that I still use as guidance. And I was flown out there. This was when I was all excited about being an SF, and I just kind of learned about this world. And I mean, I remember being in the rental car, crossing the bridge at sunset, listening to Hallucinogenics by Matt something, and like crying, being like, I made it. It's been a really, really hard path, but I've made it. My dreams come true. And the next day I walked in and I'd been told it would be all behavioral. So I didn't need to do any of that weekend ahead of time prep for cases. And then I'd be meeting with these three people. So I researched those three people and figured out how to get along with them. And I knew a lot about the company's culture and knew I was a good fit. So I was like, all right, let's go do this. I walk in, the offices were just a beehive, and I ended up meeting with 6 different people, none of which were the ones I was told about. Every meeting was a case study or a case interview. And the first one, I bombed. The second one, I bombed. By the third one, I knew I wasn't getting the interview, or I wasn't getting the job. And they just kept sending more and more people in. I remember the hiring manager came in at one point, looked at my resume, looked me in the eye, and he said, "Why are you here?" And I thought it was a question as part of the interview. And he's like, "No, like, how are you here? I'm looking at your resume. You shouldn't be here." After that, the head of all business ops for Tesla happened to be walking by and just came in, said, "I'm going to have a little fun," and asked me, um, if you had to be a C-suite, like CMO, CFO, whatever, COO, who would you be and why? And I was like already head in my hands. Um, I said I would be the CEO. And she's like, "Why?" And I was like, "I just think I'd be a really good fit for it." A few years later, it turns out. Um, and she laughed in my face. And I actually had one woman come in and say, "Don't worry, you can relax now. It seems like you've had a long day. Um, this will be easy." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." She's like, "Yeah, it's just going to be a case interview." And I threw up and caught it. Like I threw up in my mouth. And it was terrible. The last person turned out again to just be walking by and saying, "Yeah, this would be cool." Comes in and he was one of the first 11 at Tesla. And he comes in and he looks at my resume and he asks, "What have you learned?" I gave him a good answer, and he said, "But what did you learn?" I gave him a different answer that I thought was pretty good, more and more honest. By the end of the 30 minutes, he had written on the whiteboard, "What did you learn?" and was screaming at me, "What did you learn?" over and over again. And I was like in almost tears, being like, I don't know, man. I already failed this. You shouldn't be here. You're wasting your time. And like that was the greatest fiasco I'd ever been a part of. And left that I left the factory and was laughing because it was like I walked in there thinking like I've made it. My dreams came true, and it just absolutely blew up in my face in a way that like doesn't seem real, right? And afterwards I was like, "Oh, I'm still okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my per diem to go get Nobu for the first time. I'm going to fly back and I'm going to keep going." And I did. And I also noticed that, some of their stuff seemed a little bit hectic, and COVID was just popping off. And so I ended up shorting them and making a big old bag on my flight home.
Yeah. No, that's I was gonna say like I would have just walked the hell out. I'm surprised. Like kudos to you for staying through the whole process. I, I'm way too bipolar for that. I would have been good. So no, God, no, man, I did not expect that response. But that was that was holy crap. Um, yeah. So, what's the most exciting technology trend that you're watching right now?
I mean, honestly, I'm most excited about our tech, frankly. I'm a big marketplace guy. I think that's where a lot of the inefficiency and time wasted that exists in the world lives, across all different markets. And the grasp system that we've created, this ML engine I've talked to you about, it is like literally doubling the performance in terms of speed and accuracy of the best models out there today. And what that means is it's an information retrieval that can do high quality matchmaking. And so that is the marketplace optimizer. And so to me, that's really, really exciting. I think there's a lot of hype around, agents and generative AI in a way that's cool, but it's people have gotten a little ahead of their skis. There's gonna be a little bit more time before we start to see like real impact and really exciting stuff getting done. Because like, I don't know about you, but my inbox is now full of messages sent from agents on automated sales ops systems, and I never look at them. And yeah, you can automate the function, but you're not getting the job done. And so there's a lot of stuff out there. So I think that's it. I'm pretty pumped about SMR, small modular reactors for nuclear. I come from a power background, and most of what my specialty was exploring like where is the energy transition going? What is the tech that is going to actually come out to kind of replace natural gas and all of that? And I think small modular right now is probably our best shot. Um, and then yeah, I just learned how to use chopsticks more effectively, and that is a technology. So
Yeah, it is. It is. It's one of the greatest technological innovations in history when you think about it. So yeah, no,
yeah,
I agree. Well, that concludes our amazing lightning round. I want to thank you so much for coming on with everything. I'm going to share one of your links here. So if you guys want to connect with Jacob after this, please do. This is his link to his LinkedIn, and also with one of my favorite technologies that's out right now, Grantx with their link, grants baby. Yeah, it's honestly the technology that they're working on is extremely revolutionary and fantastic. And I'll give you a little bit of time here to tell everybody again or remind them what you guys are building at Grantx.
yeah. So the grant funding marketplace has $1 trillion that flow through it every year, and it's extremely fragmented and outdated. The biggest problem that we've uncovered is accessibility and visibility of data. And that doesn't just mean being able to have, an intelligence layer, market insights, funding insights, but also the ability to kind of quickly get connected with the grants that you have the most likelihood of winning, the funding that's out there for you. Traditionally, that is a question that's taken 2 to 3 weeks to answer, even if you hire a professional consultant. With our platform, all you have to do is enter in the name of your organization and your URL, and that question is answered for you in 10 minutes at the same level of quality. You get the 4 to 5 that you need to know about in 10 minutes. and all the information you need to know to win them. And so, if you're an organization, small, medium, large, nonprofit, or even a corporate that's looking to get some more grant funding, or kind of speed up the process that you typically use to gain that same grant funding every year, hop on our platform and we'll change your life.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. I actually have another Fortune 500 that I'm gonna chat with. He might be there this Saturday. It's my birthday Saturday for everybody that doesn't know. So Jacob's coming to my birthday party, but he might be there or not. If he isn't, I'll connect you on the back end. I'll see if there's any interest there. But I think there will be. He works at a big portion of the grants for oil and gas stuff. So I'll shoot that over to you. Because also with the platform we're building, I like to do connections. I do 50 intros per week, literally, and obviously try to share the wealth and all the things, which also brings up, I guess, some info for us. So for Titan AI, we're going to be launching everything in in November, and so right now we're going to be launching the recommendation system for recommending the right people, communities, events, businesses, and resources for the individuals that are using our platform, the relationship management and community management. If you know any communities or organizations that could really use the help with trying to increase their engagement, definitely send those individuals over to us, and definitely sign up for our platform yourself if you haven't already. We have different tiers for those. Basically, it's free for people to use, but if you want to use any of the AI tools or system integrations, that does come with a cost for the system. Happy to explain more of that if anybody needs any context. And then also we're doing a lot more events next week. We're going to have CS Freeland with the Texas Venture Fest, Texas Venture Alliance, and Texas Venture Gala here on the podcast. And then we also are going to be doing a live session during the Texas Venture Fest the week after that on that subsequent Thursday. That's going to be a shorter little segment for everybody. We'll be talking with one of the investors that's at the Venture Fest in a collaboration with them. So yeah, we've got a lot of things on the horizon. We also have another in-person event here in Austin in November. So yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in, and looking forward to bringing you some more amazing content. If you have anybody that you recommend, so for all the people that we have on as guests, also we will take some inbound for that stuff, but really we prefer if somebody recommends you to us for you to be a guest on the podcast as well. So, if you have any, decision makers, manager level or higher, really a lot of industry experts who we're trying to get on this. So if you have anybody within those spaces, definitely, recommend the right people, or just have them reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have a conversation and, get some more people. We do have a lot more planned that's not on the calendar, but we don't want to overwhelm people with 50 different names, just kind of in a long laundry list for people to choose from. So yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. And thank you, Jacob. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close this out?
Thank you again, Gabe. Always love coming on. And for anybody out there listening who is interested in learning more about Grantx or taking part in our current round, we are raising our pre-seed, and you can get more details. It's about half full. So reach out. I'm at jacob@grantx.com.
Sweet. And if anybody needs to get connected with him and they're already connected with me, happy to do an introduction as well. I've got his cell and his email, so happy to make any valid intros there for anybody that would like to speak to Jacob more. And also, I'll show the QR code one last time here if you guys connect with him on LinkedIn. Great guy, and absolutely excited about what he's got next on the table. So thank you guys so much for being on today, and yeah, see you guys next week. See ya.